Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Andrew Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. And today we have an amazing guest, Mr. Alejandro Canonero. Welcome, Alejandro. How are you?
Oh, very well. Thank you, Andy. Great to be with you today.
It's fantastic to be with you as well. So I know that we go back a long way, or quite a long way. So we met nearly 20 years ago in a place just outside London. As we shared an interesting year together, doing some crazy stuff and some very secret stuff. It was always very secret. It was like under stealth.
Yes.
But you've obviously done some interesting stuff since then. So, what we do is we met when we did our MBA together, didn't we? Our Master of Business Administration in Ashridge Management College, I think, in Business College, just in Berkhamsted, just outside London. And the rest is history.
Yes. It's been a long time, a lot of water under the bridge, but it's wonderful to continue the dialogue with you over the years.
And it's interesting, actually, because, we'll go through it in a second, but your background actually is a lot of the, in G&T. It's perfect for the G&T, really, isn't it? I know we're not drinking G&T yet. Maybe we can do that later. But growth and technology have kind of formed a lot of part of the last 20 years for you as well. So but we don't want to kind of expose too much too early. See, with the audience, we're going to get them. There's like going to be a build up to that.
Okay.
And we find out what Alejandro's been working on secretly, and then obviously publicly as well. So what gets you out of bed? And I suppose where are you these days? Whereabouts are you joining this session from today? Where's home today?
Yeah, well, we've been traveling around and moving from different countries. Today we are in Madrid, in Spain, which is where I live with the family. Okay. So not a sunny day today, but usually is.
It's usually a lot sunnier than it is in the UK, anyway. So but you're not originally from Spain, though, I don't think, are you? Obviously you've got a very sexy accent, but you're not actually from Spain or from Madrid.
Yeah. Yes, we want to use the Latin lover accent now.
Well, hey.
Yeah. No,
you need to teach me that accent, Alejandro.
That's to be explored. I'm originally from Argentina, in South America. Very proud Argentinian. Got some icons like Gardel, one of the best tango singers, So then
that's tango.
Tango.
Oh, you mean the kind of the dance?
Yeah, the romantic dance.
Oh, right, okay. Mm-hmm. Who else would you say is famous from Argentina besides yourself, obviously?
Yeah. After me, well, we got a few icons. I would put number one. Favaloro is a doctor. He's a cardiologist. Well, he was. He died tragically a few years ago, but he was the inventor of the bypass.
Oh, really? Okay. The heart bypass.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
I would say that's the number one Argentinian I will, call out. And he helped a lot of people to live longer. And then you got, people that come into fame due to not so, good actions, but still entertainment, like Maradona, the football player, the Pope, or lately Messi, another football player. We got Gabriela Sabatini, which she was
the famous tennis player. Yeah.
Guillermo Vilas, who held a few tennis records until recently. Juan Manuel Fangio, Formula One racer, who held the record of championships until not long ago, when Schumacher took over. So, yeah, we got a few people that did, interesting things in life.
So it's kind of like, medicine or medicine health, religion, football, Formula One driving and tennis. Well, you see, that's the thing, though. It kind of, I suppose, it opens up it for you for the for being the person in the tech industry, yeah, in the G&T industry, the growth and technology industry.
Yeah,
the Alejandro, the icon from there. You see, there's that number one place, that gold medal.
Oh, yeah, that would be nice to have.
Yeah, but I think when you explain a bit later, I think people will realise how influential you have been on that. So we'll hold that for a second. So so these days, what gets you out of bed in the morning? Obviously, in that lovely place that you live in Madrid, what are you working on these days? What are you doing? What keeps you busy?
Yeah, what keeps me busy is to keep learning, evolving as an individual and also as a family. I got a growing family with 3 kids and 2-year-old baby and a wife. So it's always a learning and adapting to change, which is wonderful, keeps you alive and keeps you sparky. And also evolving as an individual, trying to be a better business owner, executive, a better leader in every area of life. And it's never ending, right? So
you're always learning something.
And whenever I think I got it, I realize I don't, and I tack and find a new way forward. Particularly in this new situation with the recent virus epidemic and a few challenges in the economy and in society that we are living today. We need to, be more and more flexible and more adaptable, like the bamboo,
like the bamboo, yeah. Well, it's like the classic Charles Darwin quote, isn't it? The people that survive are the ones that are adaptable to change. Is it a bit of ability to change and adapt and be flexible? So yes, so I think spot on with that because it's you never know. Say again, sorry.
Evolution of the Species by Charles Darwin, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. Because I think, but it's also that I think what you're highlighting is the thing. It's not just about what you do for work. It's also how you balance that with your home life as well. I mean, if you've got 3 kids and you've obviously got, sounds like at least one under 5 as well. Then I remember my time with my sons Ben and James. It was pretty tough. I mean, they're 16 and 14 now, so I feel like they're more self-sufficient, you could say, not as dependable, but you got different challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we all want to have many areas of our lives alive, right? Work, family, individual development, physical evolution of fitness and spiritual. So there are some academic. So there are many, areas in life that we want to keep alive and be diverse in our approach to life, not to be siloed.
Yeah. Well, it makes life more interesting, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, if you talk about your what you're doing today, I mean, in the you've obviously got the kind of the growth side of it. So, I mean, I know that we jointly went through, I suppose you could say, I don't know what it was, I suppose it was a personal growth journey together. Some of the crazy things we did at Ashridge together.
Yes,
including tightrope walking and various other kind of physical entertaining sessions. Besides obviously trying to stimulate our brains and read about probably the most books that we've ever probably read in 1 year, and then actually have to sit down and do exams, which was painful. We thought we'd done all the exams we ever had to do in our life.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that you've actually. Well, I think you mentioned that you actually embarked on another. You're doing the next level up, aren't you, from what we did then?
Yeah. I continue to go further, and I embarked in another challenge, which is very motivating, very exciting, but also very challenging, which is a doctorate in business administration, which is similar to a PhD, but with a more practical application and based on experience. So I'm doing my research on technology platform ecosystems, which is an area that I've been working for a very long time. And now I want to, expand and add some knowledge, create some knowledge, but also, do the research about what is being written about it, what is the gap, and address that gap with research. And I'm also running, an action research because I'm actually creating.
You're doing it in real life in your day job as well, aren't you?
Exactly. So it's going to take a few years, probably 4 years to finish, because I got many things going on. But very excited about it.
So for the audience, that we've got to keep you out of trouble. We've got to keep you out of trouble, Alejandro. So they call it a DBA, don't they? A DBA, because we did an MBA together, but they call it a DBA, a doctorate in business administration. And you said it's the same as like doing a PhD. So you have to create new thinking on new white space hypotheses and validate that with real data. Is that the kind of the way you do it?
Absolutely.
Right.
First, you need to explore the existing literature to understand what is known, what is being written, what is being researched.
Right.
If you do that, then you find the gap and address that gap through research, real research, and validate, create a new theory and validate the hypothesis, or create a hypothesis that, is sustained by true data.
Right.
And write a paper, publish that paper, and probably, write a book after that.
Oh, right. Okay. Fantastic. So if we do this episode again in, I don't know, 1 or 2 years, it'll be Dr. Canonero, will it? Is that?
Yeah, that would sound nice.
Or Lord Canonero of Madrid, or Dr. Canonero, Lord Canonero of Buenos Aires. Yeah.
Just Dr. Canonero will be.
Dr. Canonero. That's great. Well, I see. So yes, I suppose that's the thing, is a number of people who do that academic research, then they usually do publish that, I suppose, in academic papers, or I suppose, as you said, there's a kind of you could become a book author on the back of that, couldn't you? Because you've done all the heavy lifting, or the heavy work around the research piece. Yeah,
exactly. So definitely you need to publish your thesis after it's been approved.
Right.
A potential way forward is to, write a book where you get out in the world the findings. I think is the right thing to do if these interesting are finding and can help. And mostly, the DBA is mostly focused on practitioners, on people that are doing things on the ground. At the difference to a PhD, there's a little bit more a theoretical level. So my goal is to help other people like myself,
right,
that are trying to make things happen, bring down from theory, bring down to earth certain, elements of practice that are successful, that have proven to be successful by other companies, and, create the top 10, best practices to create a technology platform ecosystem, and not just by reading superficial documentation about Uber, Amazon, and Netflix, or the Android operating system, or the Apple operating system, which are great examples of successful ecosystems.
Right.
How a product company can become a multi-product company and then can become a platform is something that people are trying to do today, right? And finding the angle on what actually works and what doesn't. Sometimes, takes a lot of money, takes a lot of time, missed opportunities.
Yeah. So, it's very incredibly strategic as well. Incredibly strategic.
Yeah. Absolutely. You find the most valuable companies today with market value are platform companies. So it's not casual. It is because you are creating value on top of what you do as a main technology or core development. You're allowing other people to develop on top, create value for more customers. And, today is a world of ecosystem versus ecosystems. It's not a company versus another company. So you need to be part of an ecosystem that adds value and allows other companies to grow with you. solving customer problems.
Right. Okay. That's the kind of definition of what you would define it as. And we could question because obviously I know that when we embarked on that joint academic journey of transformation and discovery, it sounds like you've been in the middle of this, the jungle somewhere. But what was the trigger for you to do that next level of DBA level or PhD level research on that? I mean, what was the trigger for that? Because it's a big commitment. It's a big commitment. It probably impacts your day, your time. I mean, I can't thank you enough if given what you're doing that. You're doing like a PhD, and man, I've got you on this podcast. So hats off to you for spending the time on that one. But what was the trigger? What made you do it?
Well, to be honest,
what inspired you to do it? Should I say? Yeah.
It's always motivating to go to the upper level you could go in anything in life, and we can talk about the Ironmans that I did or any other stuff that motivated us to move forward as human beings and find the next stage in our lives. But I'll say that what triggered to do the research in this particular area is that I found that some companies are successful because they have one area of the key areas well developed, and the market, picks them up and adopts them. Some others do different stuff, and reading the research and the books, I got all the books written about platform ecosystems and platform technology. No one seems to have cracked the formula, and
right.
I think there could be not a silver bullet, but I think there could be a simpler way to go about it. And it's not rocket science. And I think
Yeah, but you got to say that it is rocket science. It's the Alejandro Canonero rocket science. It's the secret sauce.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to work in blue chip companies where I was, fortunate enough to try things out. And some of the things I tried were successful. At Amazon, I created a channel ecosystem for the Amazon software marketplace, and I'm doing it now.
Which is no small feat, by the way.
No, when you are there,
I think there's a small company that used to sell books on the internet. Oh, now it's quite large, and it's got a guy called Jeff looking after it. Okay, Amazon. Oh, yeah, I think I've heard of them. Yeah. Okay.
Full of smart people, and they're certainly tapping into, the ecosystem economy, and also on the platform. You can see that with the cloud business. You can, how they allow people to develop on top of the cloud. You can see that with original business on selling books and CDs, and now 75% of the business is selling products of other people and using their own core technology.
Yeah, it's like a huge channel. Yeah,
as a platform to build on top.
Correct.
So
yeah,
certainly they crack the model, and we all learn from them and from others. There are things that they do very well, and there are things that they do very, very bad.
Surely, no, that can't be true.
Well, you need to read the New York Times, and you can find some things.
But if you read the Washington Post, I presume it's all nice and glory. Maybe that's because the owner of the Washington Post is slightly different. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So it's interesting because if you think the kind of the work that Amazon have done over the last couple of decades, it's quite amazing. And when I was at Tesco, just after I left Tesco, there was a project called Nile. The Nile project, and it's obviously grocery retail is a fairly big industry, and I constantly watching the reactions, or obviously because Amazon are now moving their, I don't know, you call it Gunter, or their focus into Amazon Fresh and Amazon Go and all the retail, the grocery retail and shopping experience. But applying technology to it, and I can imagine there's quite a few boardrooms across the world, in retailers that are thinking, okay, what's the Amazon impact on that as their core business? So it's quite amazing how there's obviously, I've never worked in Amazon, but I know obviously yourself, and I know a few of the people that work for Amazon. There's definitely must be a culture and a way of doing business, because you can't just do one thing and be successful, and then you move into another market and be successful. You move into another market and be successful. There must be some skills, competencies, culture, ways of working, disciplines that drive Amazon to be successful in all these different spaces, all these different markets. Is that fair, or is that? I mean, I don't want you to tell any Amazon secrets. That's what I'm just trying to understand some of the things that because obviously Amazon's kind of like a phenomenon. Yeah, it's like a
I mean, I said it again, and I worked 5 years there. There are things that they do very well, and there are things that they do very badly.
Right.
There is certainly a culture, and culture, and sometimes leaning into cult.
Right. Okay.
But certainly a strong culture, and then the founder calls them mechanisms, so processes in place to make things happen, which is extremely important in these days with the productivity of the white collar employee is usually more difficult to measure than the one of the blue collar employee, right? Office workers are more difficult to track their productivity than a factory worker.
Mm-hmm.
And in Amazon, they put mechanisms in place to track and to ensure that goals are achieved and initiatives are moved forward. So definitely the founder and his leadership play a role in having created that culture and those mechanisms, and then keeping the culture alive to keep that execution alive. Now, when you look at what they go after, some things are innovative, some things are quite obvious, but it's surprising that others didn't do them or didn't do them well.
Right. So just doing obvious things well is kind of like a business in itself sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Microsoft created a software marketplace before Amazon did. Google had the Apps marketplace before Amazon did. But, Amazon applies a certain pressure into a particular way of doing things that get things done.
Right.
That is not exclusive of Amazon. That can be done, and it was done before by from the Roman Empire and the way of conducting wars to other great companies before. So in big data, big data was never done before. I said, look, first before this was data warehousing, and I was doing data warehousing 20 years ago, and before that it was data mining, and before that it was database management. So there are things that are shifting in the naming conventions, but that were done well by other companies in the past. Sometimes they take possession of certain concepts, own them in the market, and then people think that they created them or that they are the best at it. So it's also about positioning and how you control your messaging out to the press, which is some companies do very, very well. So,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. No, thanks for sharing that. It's interesting. I know there's a lot of, it's this thing about the tech titans, isn't it? It's this thing about the how do you actually get into a situation where, if you look at 10, 20 years back, these companies weren't like they are today, and their impact on our daily lives and what we do and what we have as our and what we think our future is, which is this thing about, they're seen as the tech titans, as the, Scott Galloway calls them the four horsemen of the apocalypse. He's very dramatic about, Amazon, Google, Facebook, and Apple, and not always in a positive way. but they have done some stuff for good. But obviously, that I ran one of my communities in London, Agile Data London. I ran a webinar the other week with one of the speakers, and he was predicting that he believes that Google and Amazon will get broken up at some point. That was his prediction, because they're just getting too big and too powerful. So I'm not saying we have to discuss that on today's podcast, but it's fascinating how if you're very successful, then people have a go at you. If you're not very successful, they have a go at you, and if you're not quite as successful as you need to be, then you have a go at you. So it depends on that. So it's like a no-win. If you're too successful and think you're controlling too much, if you're not successful, if you fail, then you see this being it's interesting kind of take on life, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they do control a lot. And if you think about Amazon is preventing a lot of other companies to do what they do. And they are what we call walled gardens, right? So they operate and control their environment to a level that it sometimes puts people out of business, a small business that are the fabric of society. If you look at, for example, the European economy is made of, 90% small business.
Yeah.
When these big companies start to monopolize certain activities, they put a lot of small
pressure.
Out of business. I saw it when I was there at Amazon, and I'm seeing it now that I'm at Criteo with the advertising economy, and I see how Google is trying to, dominate the advertising, the online advertising environment by, constraining what can be done or not with their browser.
Right.
A lot of small and medium-sized companies, or even big companies, to continue to do business. So it's not fair, and they need to be controlled.
But then the question: if you've got a multi, I suppose then the question is: if these companies are, you're saying who becomes the, do you control it through regulation? Do you control it through government? And then if they're multinational or global, then it becomes even more difficult to control them or manage them, isn't it? I mean, it's like through legislation, through law, it becomes challenging, isn't it? That's the thing.
Very, very challenging, because they are global and they have a global view, and they go where this, where the legislation is going to be better for them. They put headquarters in countries where they pay less tax. They play with regulation in certain countries on how to manage data. So if you are a small company, the government will always win over you. If you are one of these players, one government may fight back, but the rest are losing. So it's an
interesting power play, isn't it? Yeah.
And they bring a lot of value to society, but they also take a lot from society. This is not free. It's not a free ride that we are getting at all. And you can see it in the profit, in the balance sheets, and the share prices, and how much the shareholders are getting from this. And this money is coming from the people. And some of these people are losing their businesses due to these companies and how they overpower the rest of society. So we need to be careful with them.
Interesting. No, it's a very interesting topic. We can spend a whole episode just talking about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. maybe if I get the chance to get Scott Galloway on this podcast, then that'd be a fascinating thing. He's done some real. I don't know if you know this guy. He's from New York Stern University. Yeah. So a big call out to Scott Galloway. Mr. Scott Galloway, if you're happy to have you on as a guest on this podcast in the future. But Alejandro Canonero was here first. No, I'm joking. So I mean, in terms of your personal journey, obviously you mentioned that you were originally from Argentina. I've never been to South America at all, actually, in my life.
Oh wow! Not yet.
So no, exactly. I'm glad you said that. So maybe we should do, in a few years, we should do a tour of South America together. That'd be a good one.
That would be awesome. That would be wonderful. There are many wonders in South America, from the nature, the people, the warmth of the people, and the opportunity to do things right due to the underdevelopment of certain areas, which present opportunities to do it right from the beginning, which unfortunately is now happening, where you see the deforestation in Brazil,
Right.
looking at, creating some agricultural industries and so on. So it's an area to be protected. Most of the drinking water in the world is in El Dorado, in the border there between Paraguay, Bolivia,
Okay.
Brazil, and Argentina. And when water becomes the next big thing, which could become, that's an area that is going to be, an area of concern as well. So many strategic and important things could happen there.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been to South America, so we should plan that. That should be an off episode plan, cunning plan between Alejandro and Andrew, the AA tour. So, in terms of your personal journey, though, I mean, what could you explain to the audience? I mean, because what's your backstory? What you've mentioned, you've teased us a little bit by saying some of the things you're now doing. You're now in Madrid. You're now living with your family. You're now doing a doctorate in business administration, which is like PhD level, which is pretty impressive. You worked for Amazon for 5 years. But what happened before all that? There's obviously a backstory to that. Could you explain to the audience where did you start? What was the beginning?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yes, it's always good to remember where we come from, to remember who we are and how we became to be who we are. So yeah, I'm originally from Buenos Aires, in Argentina. I'm a single child from a single mother, and it was hard to grow up in Argentina with. It wasn't, as aggressive and violent as it is today in some areas, but it was rough growing up, and it was difficult to get money to put food on the table. So I started early on working, helping people to build houses, buying whatever they needed. And then, when I could, I started to wash dishes in restaurants while I was going to high school, and then worked at
my... Oh, when you were like a teenager kind of thing, you were doing that?
Yeah, at 15, I was already living alone. I'm going to high school and seeing my mother and helping her when I could.
Right.
Washing dishes in restaurants at night, and then McDonald's at night, and then going to high school as well. And university, fortunately, in Argentina, you could do it at night from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay.
So the university paid by myself, and worked my way through. It started actually, or you could say my first corporate role was working in a bank. At the time was Bank of Boston, Bank of America today, selling credit cards over the phone and mortgages and personal loans for the bank. And that's how I started my career. Then moved into marketing, database marketing. And that's how I came into the technology world of, managing data to take important decisions. But my first relationship with technology started when my mother and I were wondering if I would ever be able to go to high school, which I was able to because I won a scholarship from the Rotary Club.
Oh, right.
The highest, the highest notes, the highest grades of all the primary school in all shift, morning, afternoon, and evening.
Fantastic.
And they decided to give me a scholarship for high school. Otherwise, we could not afford it, not at all. But in that effort to find a way to earn a living, I registered myself into an electricity and carburation training course, which will lead me to be an apprentice in a car fixing shop.
Okay, like an electrician. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking at the certificate. I still have it here. It was from 1981, so I was 12 years old.
Wow.
And I got my degree in electricity and carburation for cars, which, it was like a sleeve in a card in our sleeve to find myself a job quickly, to be able to earn a decent living and to put food on the table. So,
but that's so you were like 11 or 12 doing that before, you weren't 16, 17, 18. You were very young for doing that kind of, but what was driving you to do that was to help your mum, to help your family, to basically do the best you could at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was difficult for a single mother to keep to put food on the table at the time. You
Mm.
know, it wasn't the society that is today. So we need to think about 40 years back and look at
Mm.
you reflect on 40 years back what your society was, and
No, exactly.
and see the evolution, right? So I needed to put food on the table, and I needed to create a future for myself that will take us from where we were to a better place. So
Mm.
I had a strong drive to do that. It was the only way out. And my mother played an amazing role in putting in my mind that education was the way forward, right?
Right.
Um, of course, we can find examples of people that, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, picked university, and okay, great, well done. But, it's good to have an education and
Mm.
to
Mm.
have, that entrepreneurship idea as an option. For me, education gave me all the opportunities I had, in addition to a lot of people that helped me out and gave me opportunities along the way, right? But technology has been there from the beginning. Adopting it early, being an early adopter of anything I could get my hands on, certainly gave me an edge when competing with other people for roles.
Mm.
Uh, and that's how a can-do attitude also, helped me out and put me in good places to be awarded an opportunity to show what I can do, and I
So,
certainly got that.
so it sounds like like if you were looking at that stuff like electrical engineering 11 or 12, it sounds like that thing, that phrase, that being a tinkerer. You were tinkering with technology. You were tinkering with electronics. You were trying to work out how things work. Was that kind of what was happening with you? Is that you were kind of inquisitive and curious?
Embracing the future, I will say. Looking at what is coming that not others are doing, that could bring a better future, and embracing it has been a living theme, and I think that was a trigger. Not everyone had a certificate in fixing cars, and I thought that if I did that, then I will be first to be taken as an apprentice and get a job.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and it all went down from there. So first, I started using technology in the bank to help the bank make decisions to help their customers. And then from there, I switched to helping many companies adopt that technology by, creating technical solutions for customers, working for NCR Teradata, which was the leader at the time on database management and data warehousing, when the data warehousing term was coined and data marts were created, and operational data warehousing was started to be the norm. And we evolved from there. Then I started to get involved in CRM when Peppers and Rogers wrote those books about one-to-one marketing, which I still have, and how to leverage technology to create better customer relationships. And then evolved into enterprise content management, which was a big buzz. And I worked for Documentum EMC out of London after graduating from the MBA. And so I lived in Argentina, worked in the US, in Latin America, lived in London when we did the MBA, and stayed working there for 4 or 5 years, and then worked for a company, an Irish company, by the way, which was a great experience, and started to work on creating document management projects to, help companies find the information they were looking for, and then on enterprise resource planning. So I covered the whole spectrum of the technology that enterprises were needing to operate, and that gave me a broad view of, how it could operate. And then Amazon asked me to help them to create a partner ecosystem to allow all those technologies to run in their cloud for their customers. And that's when I moved to a wonderful country in Central Europe called Luxembourg, where we got a little girl was born, and
Oh wow!
great, and that's where Ernestina, my youngest, is from, and the rest is history. Now I'm helping Criteo to create indirect channels and evolve from being a mono-product to multi-product company, and evolve from being direct only to direct and indirect, and create a platform ecosystem with partners,
Okay.
with partners, and with developers. So working on API strategy to have developers build value on top of us, and creating the ecosystem and creating partnership with e-commerce companies that are competing with the monopolies of this world. So, small merchants today, particularly with COVID and having to work from home, turn into the online sales. But when they go into online, then they have the budgets of the big players where everybody goes to buy products, right? So they need an intermediary step to have a shop in the internet, and that's when they use an e-commerce platform like PrestaShop, Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, and those are the companies that I'm partnering with to help small merchants to have a shop in the internet, visible to the world, and then we help them to be visible to buyers and be able.
Oh, so I see. So you're effectively connecting so basically amplifying that online store to the world.
Correct.
Okay, that's so through your Criteo. Is it Criteo or Criteo?
Yes, Criteo is
Criteo, right.
the largest independent online advertising company. It's the fourth after Facebook, Google, and Amazon, and it's the one that is operating on the open internet ecosystem. So it has partnership with 4,500 different publishers like the BBC, newspapers. As I said, thousands of publishers that have people going into their websites to learn new things, certain topics, get informed. And we are working with those publishers to make their spaces available for advertisers to show their products to consumers. If you go to Google, you only see what Google lets you see. And even if you search, you only find what Google lets you find.
Yeah. So it's like, what is a true internet neutral search advertising platform?
Exactly.
That's huge. That's huge, mate. That's huge.
Yeah. And Google wants to make a strong play around that and monopolize it. And
look at this. Look, have you seen this? Look. So I don't know if you follow this program, but this thing. This thing called Wired.
Yeah.
Wired. Seen this? Look.
Yeah, I did. No, I haven't seen this number, but I know the publication.
So what does it say? It says search wars. DuckDuckGo takes on Google. Yeah, see that? DuckDuckGo takes on Google. Yeah. Because obviously DuckDuckGo is like another search engine, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there are a few. And then you go to Amazon, you only see the products they get paid to show you on top. And Facebook, you only see what they get paid to show you. So, and
which is back to that kind of walled garden. So what you're saying is you walk into their garden, and you only see the plants and you only see the part of the garden that they want you to see because they control that garden. Yeah, is that that's the analogy? Yeah.
Yeah, and they want to make those walled gardens bigger and let everyone out. And that's not fair. That's not fair for anyone. For a small, there are a lot of people working in the advertising industry, and there are a lot of people that are using these advertising services to sell to the world.
Yeah.
And if you let these big monopolies you're killing the fabric of a lot of economies that are relying on that, and small pop and mom shops that rely on being able to do these things by themselves. So it's not fair, and that's where the previous conversation about having to control these people is important, and it's difficult. The businesses are bigger than the GDP of some of the countries in the world.
Yeah, no, but I think, but you see, if you think about the current world we're living in, where there's been a complete world reset, and with the pandemic, and actually. Unfortunately, people are going to lose their roles. They're going to lose their jobs. They're being furloughed, etc. They're going to have to. People call it pivot. Yeah, they have to change to think about what they want to do as an individual. Then the piece around building an online business, and then you can build an online store. If nobody finds you, yeah, and you can't advertise, you get no cut through on advertising, then you're never going to have any visitors. You're never going to sell anything, and you're never going to really realize the potential of what you have as a proposition. So it becomes pretty difficult. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, the reason I recently published, I think it was yesterday and today, a new partnership that we launched where, advertisers can, a small merchant can advertise for $5, €5 per day using our application, and, being able to be seen anywhere in the world. And, it is democratizing the access to internet and to advertising. And it's not a small feat, and it's not a small thing, allowing, small shops to be able to compete and be seen and be able to maintain their business. Despite this cloud of power that these companies have and how they control our lives. So,
but people are not probably aware. I mean, that thing you just said. I mean, obviously, we're kind of, you could say we're reasonably technology aware, but I don't think people are aware of how those gardens are being curated, and the lawns are being mowed in a certain way that drives traffic and people's use of the internet to a certain place that's controlled by the tech titans. It's not as though people are aware of that. They just assume that it's giving you a choice of everything, when actually it's a curated choice by the tech titan. Is that right? Absolutely.
Yeah, choosing from a multiple choice that they give you previously.
The action is A, B, or C, or exactly. A, B, or C. What about D and E? Oh, no, they don't exist. A, B, or C. Interesting. So is that focused purely on e-commerce use cases, or is that focused on just everything that you can get on the internet? When you say advertising, do you mean advertising any product or service, or B2C, B2B?
Any product or service that you want to advertise on the internet is being controlled, by the big players, and particularly with the, extended use of certain web explorers like Chrome. Then, you are controlled by what you can do there, and it affects absolutely every industry, every vertical.
Wow.
B2C, B2B. Absolutely everything. So having an open internet where everybody can have a go at being visible and being able to be chosen by a consumer, a buyer, a reader, it's extremely important. It's extremely
it's fundamental. It's fundamental, isn't it?
It's the freedom of press, of the freedom of
I agree. Freedom of speech, exactly. Yeah.
Right. So
freedom of information. Yeah.
A small thing. It's not. And
are you going to bring out your own browser then? I mean, is that the plan as criteria to bring out your own browser, or because if you're saying that because obviously if you think about the tech titans, they have Safari, you have Chrome, you have IE or whatever it is. I don't use Microsoft. Unfortunately, I use a Mac, but because if they control the operating system of the browser that you're running your web session in, then I presume, I don't know, does that apply to Mozilla as well? Is Mozilla is Mozilla independent, or is that being affected as well?
I wouldn't know, but what I will say is that instead of running another independent browser, which there are a few that you can use, what matters is what can be done, but what most people use. So it doesn't matter that we develop another browser, which I don't think we're going to do. But
right.
What matters is what the rest of the people that are using the most used tool, which is Chrome, can do. And that's what needs to be regulated. And
right. So it's a treatment. It's a treatment of those, so they don't basically step over the line and become too controlling, where they're controlling everything.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of creating another train line or another bus line to compete with the existing one, what you need to do is allow anyone to jump on the existing bus line.
Yeah.
And that's where we're working with the European regulators and to hopefully get Google to be open, transparent, and fair to allow everyone to be in this open internet. That's
Wow.
that's the way that the company I'm working for today, and it's important. But hopefully governments will listen and people will become more aware. It's a fight. It reminds me when I was learning to box here with my friends, Jovic and Christian, two Spanish heavyweight champions, and you need to know when to attack and when you retreat.
when to block and parry. Yeah, so.
Yes. This is the moment to attack and to make people aware before decisions are taken, and it's more difficult to reverse from there. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a fascinating. I think you're working on something really, really fast. It's transformational. It's really, really exciting, isn't it? It's kind of it's to pull, But as you said, you say again. Say again.
It's David and Goliath fight,
right?
And
David and Goliath, yeah.
I find a great example there where, if we play our tools right, we're going to be able to have a democratic access to online advertising and an open internet against these Goliaths who need to use the tool properly.
Well, we're going to say you can't, like I was saying about what I call the AGFA boys, Apple, Google, Facebook, and Amazon.
Let's not make this conversation about the company I'm working for today.
No, I know. So in terms of, so thanks for sharing your history, because I think it's interesting. So, one of the questions I was going to ask you about was, did you just fall into technology, into the T and the G and T? It sounds like that you tracked through quite a few of, quite a few different, I suppose, decades of change. Like the evolution of, you've tracked, you've had some foresight, and you said these types of things are changing in the evolution of technology over the last few decades. And you've actually been at the center of those things, those changes, and obviously helped to shape them as well, which I think is really exciting and really good experience. I suppose on the personal side, though, on the G side, one of the things that I've talked about with a few guests is about, people, and this is about people having what I would call peaks and valleys. Yeah. So people have had some highs in their personal journey, and then they've had some, maybe some things that didn't go to plan. So some valleys. Is there some kind of peaks and valleys that you can share with the audience about what you've learned and what what the stories are around that?
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty of peaks and valleys in my life, no doubt. And it's always challenging when you change countries and you're trying to adapt to society and create a new life. It's always a valley at the beginning, no doubt. And
you got to kind of acclimatize, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes, and I left Argentina due to a security incident where I was, victim of a express kidnap, and then moved to England to do my MBA, where I was fortunate enough to meet you. And that was a big cultural change, another language, another culture, another way of living, another way of seeing life. And it was a massive undertaking for us. And it was hard. It was hard to adapt. It was hard to, even find a job after graduation. And I find myself at 32 years old with a career behind and an MBA and no job. And I had to start all over again, and I started in a junior sales role at Documentum, the enterprise content management leader at the time, part of VP. And I took it from there, and I started all over again at 32, which was depressing at the time. But, it led me back to where I wanted to be. I had a few options. At one point in time, I had no offers, and then I had 3 offers. And I chose the most junior position in the most promising industry.
Okay.
Enterprise content management. And that led me to get back into what I liked, which was technology and the latest technology and how we could evolve and help companies evolve with that technology. And that allowed me to, get back to grow again, show what I'm made of in a different country, in a different language, achieve results in a sales-oriented environment. Where you prove yourselves not through talking, but through delivering results.
Yeah.
And there is a nice ratio, which is your say-do ratio, right? And that's something that I'm very keen on doing and looking at what others do. That ratio, do you do what you say you're going to do? And I think that is what helped me out in my restart of my career again, devoting all my discipline to delivering results. That was.
You mean so your say-do ratio? That's what you say is people talking about it, but not actually following through and doing things. They keep talking, and don't do anything. Okay.
In some companies, in big companies, some people get away with it with a low say-do ratio, but you usually are found out. I don't wait to be found out. I want to have a high ratio, and I think you get rewarded sometimes.
Interesting.
That was a value, definitely a value. Starting again at 32.
I think it's interesting to jump on that. I mean, I didn't realize because I know when we I wouldn't say we were like seeds. We were kind of fermented in the NBA, and then we kind of were cast out to the world because obviously there's people from Russia, Japan, Singapore. You were from Argentina. I mean, the diversity of America. There's people from 40 different locations across the world that we were all come together for that time, and then we all kind of dispersed. And I know we all kept in contact periodically, but I didn't realize that you had that kind of that challenging transition from. It sounds like you were pretty successful, or you've been had some success, and then you obviously had a mindset, or you maybe thought that doing the MBA would give you the golden ticket. A bit like the Willy Wonka golden ticket. You get your golden ticket, and you then get boom. You get a big job. I don't know if or you get recognised for what your talents are. But it sounds like you were kind of you struggled a bit because then you had to find a role and then come back up again to what you could realise you could do. Is that fair?
Well, it is in some way. I mean, I didn't have the expectation that the NBA was going to trigger me to the top of the world, but you look at what they say you're gonna get, and
like a stepping stone. Yeah.
That's why I think online MBAs are so popular now because people don't want to stop earning money. We stop earning.
I know.
Which is a lot.
I don't.
In the UK, with the pound was the
strong. Yeah. So you kind of have no income. You have to pay for the course, which is not cheap. Yeah, it's not £10. It's about what one that's got a few more notes on it, and then you have to deal with the whole living and accommodation. Yeah, I mean, it's economically it is quite a big deep into it. It's character building. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And then also you don't have your network. When you do this in another country, no one knew me in England, and not even in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So I had to start from scratch. But I started in an junior international role that I could develop, and then I moved to managing. I remember Iberia for what it became Autonomy, but it's Meridio, a document management company out of Northern Ireland, Belfast. And then I expanded my role due to success to Southern Europe. Then I took over Middle East. And then I started to run, Southern Europe, Benelux, and Middle East. And then I went to HP to run EMEA, a whole vertical for Hewlett-Packard with public sector vertical, government, healthcare, and education across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And I did travel to those places and meet with customers and create solutions for NATO, for example, and the UN and a lot of governments. And I evolved from there, and now I have a worldwide role. In Amazon, I had an EMEA role, and now my role is global, and I manage the strategy for indirect channels.
You've got a whole planet to look after now.
Yes. It's exciting. Early calls in the morning with Asia Pac, late calls in the afternoon with the Americas.
Yeah. Sleep for 2 hours, then back on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. It's interesting because I think there's some lessons out of this, isn't there? People think that if they do X, they get Y, but it just shows that it takes time. Yeah, it takes time, and you've got to have focus, and you've got to have discipline to keep going.
You may get more than Y, but you need to wait longer and work harder at it. And it's something that helps me to relate a lot to another area of my life, which I developed as a grown-up, which was the Ironman racing triathlon. I was doing martial arts and boxing with a couple of Spanish heavyweight champions who teach me to do it. And then I was getting tired of getting hit and going in the morning. So,
you got tired of putting the makeup on. Is that what it was?
Exactly. So I started to use my wife makeup to cover it. So I wanted to try something. I saw a video of the Hoyt family, which is father and son. Son is disabled, and the father runs Ironman races and marathons, carrying his child. And I felt
with the wheelchair,
and I was crying at the coach when I saw that. And the first thing I did is I signed up as a volunteer to help, in some of these races to give water to athletes.
Right.
And I started to learn to swim, bike, and run at 40. So at 40 years old, I went to a triathlon school and started to try to learn how to do this stuff. And working with a fantastic doctor, a PhD there in physical sciences, he helped me out and put me in a place where after 3 years of training and going through every single of the distances in triathlon, from super sprint to Olympic to half Ironman, to get to race an Ironman in 2012, full distance Ironman. And since then, I ran 5 Ironmans where I was raising money for charity. Well, you need to play that race in your mind, and you need to. I'm a finisher, right? I'm not a winner because I work full time and then I train. But you still need to finish, and those are the 5 medals I got for finishing it. But it's a great metaphor for life. And most things are a marathon, are a long distance race, a resistance, and not a sprint. And if you have that in mind, that working at it, things will come in the long term, maybe not in the same shape that you thought it will, but they will. Then you are in the right track. So
that's impressive. You've done 6 Ironmans.
Yeah, I did 5 Ironman, and that's something that you always want to get back, but difficult to find the time to train sometimes. But wonderful experience.
So is this where we put our other objective on? We're going to do an Ironman together in South America or something like that, is it?
That would be lovely. In fact, in my town in Argentina, in Tigre, there is a half an Ironman where you raise my town. So I'm also certified Ironman coach now. I did the whole training and certification, so I could create the training plan for us.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, we should talk about that. So, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Because it's interesting, actually, you mentioned about boxing, because I've been doing boxing a few years as well now. So, and you mentioned that you were training with some Spanish heavyweight champions. Is that right?
Yeah, Victorian was a Spanish heavyweight champion 2 times in Spain. He teach me the basics, and then Christian Morales is a lighter weight Spanish champion as well, who teach me a little bit more. Of course, I'm an amateur and by no means a competitor, but it was a good way to get fit and to,
it's a very good way to get fit, yeah.
Fix for life in terms of being stable and, avoiding fights. The people that fight a lot in training, they don't get involved in fights on the street, so it's good.
Yeah, because you know what to do. Yeah. Interesting. Say again, sorry?
So that, and I think another peak I could recall was when I was scuba diving, and I learned to scuba dive here in Spain with the wonderful weather, and I became a scuba diving instructor, and I started to dive with sharks all over the world, and though with the wild sharks in a cage in South Africa, with hammerhead school of hammerhead sharks in Costa Rica and in Mexico, and then in Australia with reef sharks, and then in Egypt with other type of reef sharks, and in South Africa with tiger shark and no cage, where we put the drum of a washing machine full of fish in the water, and the sharks come to eat, and you film them, and exciting.
You had no cage, and you were putting fish in the water.
Yes. A lot of people do that.
Are you crazy?
It was crazy at the time because I can eat the man, and they're certainly known as mine eaters. So one thing, shark in in the coast of some place where it's a small shark, and another one is a tiger shark, 4 to 6 meters.
So what's the biggest shark you've swum with them?
I think the biggest shark was a tiger shark, close to 6 meters, that I saw in the north of the country, South Africa, Aliwal Shoal.
Did you have any near situations then, or was it all fairly okay?
Well, I did at that time. I was so hooked on watching them come and eat and fight each other for the fish that I was leaving the depth that I had to be at with the rest of the instructors, and I started to go down. Didn't pay attention to my inflator, my vest, and then one of the tiger sharks went under me and touched my feet with his upper fin, and I got really shocked, and I swam back to the right altitude, because if they see you down there, you are a little more like a prey than if you are at the same height. Plus, you are standing in a position that they are unfamiliar with, so they don't see you as another fish, which
right. So you're not horizontal, because you're vertical. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. If you can, that would be helpful. So. And also, when
I knew you were crazy when I first met you so many years ago, but I didn't know you'd done some kind of things like that with the sharks. That's impressive. That's very impressive.
It was fun. It's no physical merit like in the Ironman, but with the white shark also, I had a video on YouTube that I loaded years ago where they throw some fish to bring them out of the channel they used to get into hunting sea lions in the coast of Cape Town.
Right.
So there is a deep channel that the sharks used to go back to the island, capture a few of those sea lions, and continue the route. And so they put these boats with cages close to this channel, and then they throw their fish and blood into the channel and bring them with a neoprene shape like a sea lion.
Right.
Bring them to your cage. And one of them came so close that he beat the bars of the cage that I was in. So he shook the whole cage, and I was,
You were there on the other side of the bar?
Because sometimes you see in YouTube some videos when the shark does get into the cage and people try to escape and they can't. And the week before I went, the same boat that I jumped in had capsized. So I didn't know that at the time. So when I left that day, so you went shark diving and so on. Yeah, I went with this company. And I said, that company capsized last week. I didn't know that.
Brilliant.
So that was an experience.
So it's like #no fear.
Yeah, exactly. Ignorance, I guess.
#ignorance is bliss, especially with the sharks.
More than no fear.
Wow. Yeah, so that's fantastic. I mean, I think the thing about you, what you're highlighting is it's this thing about combining what you do in your, I suppose, business journey with what you do personally. Because the things you do personally around, doing the triathlons, doing your shark scuba diving, that also helps you in your business thing, because it gives you the attitude, the mindset, all those kind of things. If you know when you can achieve those things personally, that actually it drives you and become a different person in what you do in your business world as well, I presume. Is that what you feel as well? Can you relate to that?
Absolutely. Yeah. You can draw a lot of learnings from the sports world into the business world, and resilience, risk management, certainly play a key role, and technology, because to dive, you use a lot of technology to calculate oxygen, to control oxygen, to control the time you are down and up. For Ironman, you become so deep into it that you control, how much you train, your rest. You use a lot of software. I use a lot of software to control my training, to plan my training, to control execution against training. So you have a plan that you need to follow.
Yeah.
And that relates to the business world as well. So I see a strong synergy and
strong correlation. Yeah. I was just thinking about that, that famous US program called Shark Tank. You just brought a new definition to the Shark Tank. Maybe we should call it the TST, the Technology Shark Tank. Yeah. So, I mean, I suppose one of the wrap-up question I got for you was around some of your predictions. Your take on the future. I mean, obviously, you've been involved in a few decades of seeing the evolution of technology, and obviously, you've grown as an individual. You've grown through your business experience. What do you and obviously, it's more than one decade; it's a few decades. Any predictions for the future that you want to share with the audience? I mean, what do you see in the next 5, 10, 20 years? Do you see some things that are worrying, or some things that are really amazing, or a combination of both?
Yeah. I mean, trying to think something that, it's not obvious that we all know, but we touch upon one of the areas of our freedom to choose from what is really available, and not from what is, a set of choices that have been predefined to us. I think we need to play a stronger role as society in pushing governments to regulate not only advertising, but if you look at what happened with Cambridge Analytica and Facebook.
Data access and data privacy. Yeah.
It's not just, it is the messages, and you see how polarized society is today, and even more because of the social networks and the messages that are put across. I read this morning, Twitter is asking people to read the news before resharing them, right? So it's going back to normal.
Oh, but back to fake news, you mean?
Exactly. Applying your common sense. Don't, spread hate. And I think one of the things that I'm seeing more and more, and I saw it in Argentina, I see it in Spain, I see it in the United States, is there's a strong break in society where before we used to have differences in certain things, but there were things that we all agree on. Now it seems that we cannot agree at anything. And
you mean there's more polarity? There's more extreme views. Yeah, I mean it's interesting because I read something about that things like, because of some things that are happening in the first 6 months of this year, even that it's even getting more polarized, and there's just the divide between the have and have-nots is getting more amplified. Yeah, and that's causing some big societal impacts and issues around what can the citizen do, and what are they supported to do, and what are they allowed to do? It becomes fundamental.
The challenge is that I see is that this is exacerbated and constrained by the technologies that are dominating this world today. And these are the Google, the Facebook, the Amazon of this world, which are the tools that people have to fight back something that they don't like, but it's also in an environment that is already pre-constrained by the creators of this technology. So we are doomed by the beginning. So unless this is democratized for real, we are playing in a playground, right? We are not playing out in the field.
It's a playbook. It's a playbook.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you've. I don't know if you. So one of my other guests, one of my early guests on the G&T Sessions podcast was a guy called Joe Toscano, right? He used to work for maybe one of the Agfa boys that begins with G and ends in E, in Mountain View, and he wrote a book a few years ago called Automating Humanity, which I would recommend you read if you've not read it. It's very, very. I started to read it, and there's pictures in the book, and it actually says. I said, this is like what I used to read at school. This is, George Orwell, like 1984, all that kind of stuff, right? And he said, read the next chapter. Oh, my God. He's actually references George Orwell's 1984 book in his book. And that was written in 2018. And he left Google because he saw practices and principles and things that were happening with the data harvesting that were, he felt were not appropriate, you could say, at the time. So, the thing that the reason I've started this podcast is that a couple of years ago I met a guy called Brian Rose, who runs a thing called London Real, and he was a podcaster. He was inspired by Joe Rogan, who obviously has just recently moved to Spotify as his exclusive platform for his podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience. So that's what triggered me to launch the G&T Sessions 2 years ago. And I'm now connected to lots of podcasts around the world. The interesting thing is that most recently, because of some of the guests that Brian's had on his show, that he's been deplatformed from a number of different social media and tech platforms because of some of the content that he shared. So I don't know if you're aware of that, but some interesting things happening at the moment. And who knows what will happen in the future? And that's, I suppose that's why I was interested in your comments and thoughts around it.
Yeah. Well, our lives are being lived a lot in these platforms. A lot what we do happen there. So, it's like when, if you don't have rules to drive in the road, if you don't have rules to buy and sell, if you don't have rules to relate to each other in society that are fair to everyone, conflict will arise. And I think this fake life or online life, which is not fake, but it's happening there, not in the physical world, doesn't follow the same rules. We're gonna implode conflicts that are created and exacerbated and not being able to fix in this space. While in the physical world,
it's going to create some choppy water. It's going to create some choppy water, isn't it? Yeah. So my final question, I suppose, and ask for you is around guidance, right? So, the audience that I'm appealing to is people that that want to have a great idea. They want to grow their idea. They want to go on their personal journey, on their business journey. So, I mean, given you've had a fantastic journey yourself, very, very interesting journey, and you've had some really amazing experiences, and I'm sure there's lots more experiences in the future. What would be your guidance to somebody who's listening to this podcast and saying, what are the takeaways? What are the kind of things, the three things that they should think about as they chart their course, they plan their journey? Any thoughts around that?
Yes, I mean, I have not been an entrepreneur myself, which I always love to do. But I did help a lot of entrepreneurs in my life, particularly when I was running the software marketplace. And today I'm working with a lot of small companies, helping them out as well. The key here is quite basic, but, it's good. I know you're running, helping with a testing company to test software, right? So it's good to have a good product, and you need to have a good product before going to market. But then it's no point of having a good product if no one can know about it. People
best kept secret. Yeah.
Underestimate that aspect of being seen by the world. And it's not a small thing. I think that's a key element to success is to be able to, turn over and sell your product as many times as possible and creating value. And a key aspect of it, once you create your idea, is how you make it seen, how you make it visible. And I will say that people need to devote a lot of thought about leveraging all the platforms that allow entrepreneurs to, launch their products and be seen, but not underestimating it. I think it's the most important aspect of it. And curiously, I see that a lot of entrepreneurs do not put, particularly in the technology industry, do not think that having a good product is enough. Having a good product is enough when you have a broad, critical base of customers that are going to buy it, like Amazon Web Services. Wonderful technology, huge customer base. Anything they launch is going to be adopted. Someone is going to pick it up.
Yeah. It's like a sweet shop. It's like a sweet shop. Yeah.
But if you are not known, having a good product is not enough. That means you need to take advantage of all the digital marketplaces that are out there and take advantage of all the online advertising tools out there. So I will simplify it, instead of 3, say 1. Think about, let's not use go-to-market plan, or how you're going to be seen by the world and how anyone can get your product. But in the worldwide scheme, So think big, aim to the moon. The man got there in 1969, a great year when I was born.
A fine year.
So aim to the moon, and anything else will work.
Well, I think that's a really good point. I mean, so what you're saying is it's no longer good enough. Build it and they will come. You remember that phrase? Build it and they will come. So you find, some organizations, some people think that they build a great product and then everybody, by osmosis know about it and they want to buy it. Oh, where do I buy it? Where do I buy it? Yeah. But as you know, it's a game of two halves, isn't it? It's, you got to get on the playing field with the product, and then you've got to work out how you develop those raving fans. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you sell it? I mean, a lot of good products are created by smart people who are the founder and CTO. And they think that, with a good product, if they don't like it, don't take it. Well, that's not the way to grow.
Yes.
The way to grow is to...
It's not quite it's not a friendly go-to-market. You either want it or you don't want it. Yeah, tell me now. I've
seen a lot of that, even in small companies where they say, well, if they don't like it like this, then, maybe we are not the right fit. And then you see them 2-3 years after closing shop. So, customer advocacy, customer, oriented, and, then sell it.
Yeah.
But to sell it, you need to think about it, to sell it at scale. It's not longer the enterprise sale that is going to save your world. To think of the scale.
It's how you leverage. Well, it's back to this point we talked about earlier. It's about how you leverage platforms and channels, and the forecast. A question for you actually. I don't know if you agree with the same thing, but my understanding by 2025, maybe it's the wrong number, but that something like 90%, over 90% of software will be sold through indirect. It was something I went, oh wow, you can think about all the kind of direct sales forces that are out there selling products. And you go, no, it's the channel, it's the indirect, it's the partnerships, it's the platform, it's the ecosystem.
Exactly. And self-service. If you download it, use it. Exactly, self-consumption. Yeah. Look at Google, self-service. People do it themselves. Look at Facebook. People do it themselves. Amazon, people do it themselves. So if you want to win, do a product that people can use by themselves without your help. Now, if they want something more evolved, more advanced, you can help them. And that's the enterprise sell. But, you can no longer think that I create something and if they want it, then they need me to make it work. The professional services industry should work on creating value on top of a basic functionality that is available through self-service. And that's how I see indirect channels growing. You make a self-service platform, anyone can use it. If someone needs help, you've got a partner ecosystem to create more value on top. And
so it's a bit like you subscribe to that service, you initiate a subscription, you subscribe to it, and you consume it.
Exactly.
Whether you're a company or an individual or a team.
Exactly. Regardless of your size. Then you are Coca-Cola. You are, a big company that needs customization. Then you put professional services. Buy the partner. Where you allow your partners to do business with your technology.
Yeah.
You support the partner with your deep expertise and product knowledge.
Yeah.
So that's how you allow that create that economy of a scale where people do things with your stuff that creates more value than the value you could have created yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying, is you're rethinking the whole value chain of the software ecosystem. That's fundamental.
Yeah, I'm learning from people that have done it before, but I'm a big advocate of this way of doing it. There are many ways to do things. I'm an advocate of, creating a developer forum, creating good open APIs, making them available to people to create value on top. Do you think Apple would have been able to develop all the apps that are available today in their marketplace? Never in their lives.
No.
But allow other people to develop on top. People have a different mindset, more creative, different approach, different glasses to see reality, different paradigms. And they create solutions to problems that Apple could have not seen. Right?
Yes.
That's how it's a multi-million-dollar business.
Yeah, that's what it creates, it triggers that innovation, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm not the only one thinking this way. I know for sure. Just another big advocate that is also doing research about it.
So all I can say is thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So much value there. So much value. So much insight, and so great stories, amazing stories. And so that was Alejandro. Sorry.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Of course. It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure. So thank you, Mr. Alejandro Canonero, who joined us from Madrid, technology entrepreneur and deep shark diver and triathlon runner and boxer, and South American expedition leader when we go to South America together.
That would be a dream.
Well, if you think about it, it'll be 20 years. It'll be 20 in 18 months. It'll be 20 years. We've known each other. So maybe it's we should plan that, our 20th anniversary. A South American trip. What about that?
Yeah, sounds good. There are a lot of places where there are rest of ancient technology there in the Machu Picchu, where you can see.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Ancient civilizations did things. So technology and growth is everywhere. And that could be a place to go for the GNT.
Well, it's the GNT South American tour. Yeah.
Yeah. Ancient civilization. Search for GNT.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for the time today. Appreciate you're a busy boy, and have a wonderful day. But thanks very much for your time today. It's fantastic.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me in your wonderful podcast, and all the best, Andy.
No problem. See you soon. Bye. Yeah.